This is good old boy Mike from Sips, Suds, and Smokes podcast, and you're listening to Pop Goes Your World.
If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.
And now it's time for our feature presentation.
I'm Chris McBrien, and the pop culture from Generation X is everything to me.
And I'm Derek Myers, and I'm here to educate Chris on the great pop culture of today's generation.
Episode 346, Family-Friendly Movies from Our Childhood. I'm Chris McBrien along with Derek Myers, and this is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. This week, we're going back to our childhood, as we are wont to do around here. We want to reminisce a little bit about some of our favorite family-friendly movies. But before we get to that, Derek, any pop culture you've been able to get around to this past week, my friend?
Yep. Yeah, I've had a chance to take in a few movies, and I want to tell you all about. They're all new. They're all from this year and last year. So.
Okay, good.
All right, we're going to start with the brand new. Just dropped on Amazon Prime last week. It's a movie called The Wrecking Crew, and this stars Dave Bautista, who people probably know as Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, and Jason Momoa. Okay. And the premise of this one is, they're brothers. They're both from Hawaii. Their dad is a deadbeat private detective who gets killed in the first 5 minutes. So a little bit of a spoiler there. And this causes the two estranged brothers to come together to try and figure out who killed their father. One of them's a cop and one of them's like an army dude. So they both have like that military investigative combat experience. And it's just this good sort of buddy comedy with these two gigantic guys, and they're constantly bickering with each other and fighting with each other. But at the same time, they're trying to solve their dad's death. It's like a comedy action movie. It was actually pretty good. It was fun, right? It was exactly what I was expecting when I saw their names on the credit. And it was. It's about 2 hours. It's on Amazon. I loved it. I watched it while I was working out. And I'm like, this movie's great. It's exactly what I need when I'm just pedaling away on the exercise bike for an hour. So check that one out. It's called The Wrecking Crew. Just dropped last week. Then I had a chance to watch two movies from last year, 2025. The first one is based on a Stephen King book, and it's called The Long Walk. Have you heard about this at all? Do you remember seeing a trailer or anything?
Nope.
Okay. So this is actually based on a book by Stephen King, or a short story by Stephen King. It's from the same collection of short stories that originally had The Running Man. Like, that's how far back we're going. It's from, like, I think the 70s or 80s. Like, the original book is quite old.
It was the Bachman books.
Yes, it was exactly. It was one of the ones that was written under his pseudonym.
81, 82, I think it was.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
So the basic premise of this is it's sort of, think the Hunger Games. It's like there's been some sort of civil uprising. America has gone through some stuff. They are rebuilding, and every year, to be inspirational to the people, each state can send one young man to do, quote, the long walk. And basically these 50 guys walk until they drop. And if they stop walking, they get killed. And whoever's the 50th guy to get there, he wins all the stuff. And so, right away, everyone except one guy is going to be dead by the end of this movie. And of course, it becomes a little bit of a character study. You get to know some of the people. They tell you a little bit about themselves and their backstory and their hopes and dreams and wishes, and how they can try and help each other while still competing with each other. Again, it really tugged at the sort of Hunger Games, just because that was such a big franchise. Like, so much of those ideas are present here, even though this material was obviously written way before.
And sorry, this is based on The Running Man, right?
No, it's based on the book's called The Long Walk.
It's based on The Long Walk because it sounds like The Running Man.
It's from the same series of short stories. Like, you know how Stephen King will do like a anthology with like 4 or 5 short stories in it? So it had this, it had and it had something else. I can't remember the name of it. Something else that had been turned into a movie. So that's what they were saying. Oh, this is a really good one. Anyway, the star of the movie is a young man whose name is Cooper Hoffman, and he's the son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman. I didn't recognize this kid at all, but he was pretty good. It also stars David Johnson, who people may remember from the most recent Alien movie, Alien Romulus. He played the robot, the black kid. And he was also in the TV series Industry the first couple of seasons. He's a really talented actor, and he's got a really good part in this as well. It was good. Again, you know me, I love a good post-apocalyptic kind of story.
You do. Yeah.
And I'm a fan of Stephen King stuff as long as it's not like horror or supernatural. And this is not. This is just a straight up character study, human interest, post-apocalyptic. So again, I really liked it. It's a little under 2 hours. So again, I had to sort of watch it over 2 viewings while I was exercising. And no, I liked it. It was really good. It was on one of the, I think it was Stars or Crave. It was on one of those ones on my streamers. So I gave it a look, and no, I really enjoyed it. And then the last one that I just watched today, you're not going to believe this one. Mm-hmm. It's the remake, reboot, reimagining of Anaconda with Paul Rudd and Jack Black.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'll be honest. I've never seen the original Anaconda with Ice Cube and J-Lo and John Voight. It was big when we were at Blockbuster. It was a big popular renter, and
it's really campy. It's really campy.
It was released as a serious horror movie, and then it was re-released as sort of a campy wink wink ha ha kind of tongue-in-cheek horror movie, and then it ended up doing much better with sort of that take. And it's since become very popular for people to go back and watch. Again, I've never seen that version of it, but I am familiar with it. So in this one, it's these guys who grew up watching the horror movie, campy, haha horror movie, and now they want to reboot it, remake it themselves, even though they are like amateur filmmakers. And so to save money on special effects, they actually go to the Amazon and try and use real snakes. And of course, you know how that's going to work out. I was expecting this movie to be a hot mess. And I got to admit, I really liked it. Like, I really liked it. It reminded me so much of the reboot of Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle with The Rock.
Right.
Where it's like, the first movie was what it was. And then 25 years later, they're like, we're going to revisit this, but we're going to do it in a way that's kind of funny, kind of actiony, kind of campy, kind of nostalgic. And this sort of felt very much like that. And like I said, it's Paul Rudd and Jack Black is the main two guys. It's also got Tandy Newton and Steve Zahn as the other, sort of to round out the top four. Also, one of the guys, Paul Rudd's wife, Jack Black's wife is played by Ione Skye. It's nice to see her again.
Nice.
She doesn't get enough work these days. Yeah. And a couple other sort of people you recognize make little cameo appearances in it. But no, like I said, I was expecting this to be garbage. And I really, really liked it, like probably more than I should have. And so if you have a chance to watch this, I would give it a go. Like, I wouldn't pay money to see in the theater, but I was pretty surprised at how much I liked it once I had a chance to watch. I literally just watched it this afternoon, and I was like, this is way better than it has any right to be. So give it a try.
Nice. Okay, for myself, so I'm Canadian, and Derek is Canadian. For anyone that has listened to this podcast, you know that. And if you're new to the podcast, well, we're Canadian.
Welcome to Canada.
And one of the things we like to do up here in Canada is go to the ice rink and go public skating. So I took my son public skating this past week. So I get to the rink, and I'm wearing a Battlestar Galactica t-shirt. And it's me, so it's like the old one from like 1978. And this teenager's running kind of the door, because you got to go up and buy a ticket, and then you show your ticket and you go in, you go skating. And this teenage guy, he looks at me and he's like, "Oh man, nice shirt." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome, thanks." I'm like, it's the original from 1978. And he goes, "There was Battlestar Galactica in 1978?" I'm like, me. Like, geez, these kids today, Derek, I tell you, I guess I've never even seen the new one, or the newer one. Because there was one with, like, I don't know, it was 15 years ago with like Edward James Olmos or something. And there's some other.
He played Adama.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen
it. Was really
good stuff. So I heard it was
really, really
good.
You would probably like it, Chris. Yeah. You should give it a go. Your family would hate it, so watch it by yourself. But I think you'd really like it.
But so anyway, this kid didn't even know that there was Battlestar Galactica from 1978. This is what my life is. Combating these kids today, I tell you. Oh, and another way that I do that is by telling them jokes. So I've got this.
Here's your dad joke of the week.
Derek, how do you weigh a millennial?
Oh my God. I have no idea.
In Instagrams.
We will not be posting that joke for likes.
Ishtar.
This movie was so bad.
Most people hate this movie.
Maybe looking at it with today's lens,
I personally like this movie.
it was terrible.
Lip smacking, back snapping, perfectly delicious.
Just awful. I can't think of anything good to say about it.
I like what I like. You know, I make no apologies about it.
Turnabout is fair play.
I've literally watched 10 seasons of Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting.
It is fantastic.
At least we didn't lead lives of quiet desperation. All right, Derek. So this week we wanted to talk about family-friendly movies from our childhood in particular. And this was actually your idea. So maybe you can just start us off and just talk a little bit about why you wanted to do this, why you thought this would be a good topic. And then I want to discuss this topic a little bit before we get into our top 5 list. You and I have each put together a top 5 list of our top 5 favorite family-friendly movies from our childhood. And we're going to work our way up from 5 to 1. But before we do that, first thing I want to do is have you explain why you wanted to do this topic. Why do you think it would be good?
Sure. Okay. So we generally, when we do movie topics, we have a strong tendency to focus on the 80s and early 90s because we know that's your sweet spot. And I think given our age and demographic, that's what we are most comfortable to talk about. And obviously I try and bring you to the future a little bit, but for the most part, we tend to sort of hover in that lane. One of the things I find that we generally don't cover a lot are sort of the family-friendly movies. We cover the teen sex comedies, the sci-fi, the action movies, the epics, the prestige picks, the Oscar bait. Like we talk about all of that stuff ad nauseum. Whenever we put together our lists, it tends to have all the things that people are like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. And the more I started to think about it, the more I was like, with the exception of maybe, I think we did an episode, we talked about our favorite animated films, or maybe we just talked about it as a topic. We generally, and even in that one, that wasn't exclusively kids movies, because I remember things like South Park made the list.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? We really don't focus on this that much. And partly it's because I don't have children. So when I want to watch a movie, my first thought is not who else is watching it with me, and I need to be mindful that there aren't swears and excessive violence and boobs and things that you may not want a young person to unnecessarily be exposed to at a certain age. Unless you're us, and then, our parents just let us do what we want when we were that age. So part of the reason also I wanted to visit this topic was there are movies from my childhood that were not great. Like, let's be honest. Going back to some of them now, you would just be like, this does not stand up as much in real life as it does in my memory of being a great movie, of something I enjoyed. But I think it's something that we need to talk about. We should talk and recommend some movies from our childhood. And now I'm sure there's going to be some on our lists that people are going to be like, well, of course that made your list. It was a family-friendly movie that was a huge success at the box office and has since become a huge success on cable and streaming. I'm sure there's a few of those on our list. Because again, I don't know your list. You don't know my list. I know there's no overlap. We had a neutral third party double check that. But I have some pretty deep cuts on my list that I'm thinking you're not even going to be aware of some of these. You're like, what the hell is that? And I kind of hope that through this podcast, at least a couple people might actually look up some of the movies we're going to talk about today.
Good.
Because maybe they've never heard of them, or maybe they haven't seen them since they were kids. Maybe it'll remind them how much they enjoyed them when they were young. And like we talk about the power of nostalgia on this show all the time. And I think we do ourselves a disservice by not dipping into that our own childhood nostalgia. We talk about our nostalgia as being, 10 to 15 years old. We talk about that in teenage nostalgia. We talk about like when I was in my first year of college nostalgia, like that we talk about all the time. I don't think we really talk about our own childhood. What were we watching as kids? Especially because as kids, we didn't have a lot of choice in what we were watching because we weren't the ones choosing the television channel or deciding what to see in the theater. So a lot of this was just, if you saw it, you saw it. Like I can remember seeing some of these at school on movie day, or you'd go to visit a relative and they were like, You know, there's nothing to do at Auntie and Uncle's house. Let's go to the movies. Well, they have one theater in that small town and it's playing this movie. And you're like, never heard of it, but we're going to see it anyway. Like a lot of these movies for me, that's how they were exposed to me. It was like never something I would have deliberately chosen, but have lived in my mind rent free for a long time. And this week has been a lot of fun going back to look up. I've been like looking up trailers and watching clips. And believe me, some of the things that I've looked up, within 10 seconds, I'm like, this is not going to hold up. And other ones, I'm like, I am going back to rewatch this week because this is going to be fun.
Now you got me reconsidering my list because I'm like thinking now, like when I was really young, like a really young kid, what was the things I like to watch that were family friendly? And so, because a lot of the stuff I picked was from when like it wasn't like maybe like around 11, 12, but I'm trying to think back to earlier stuff, but I guess we'll get to that.
I went back a lot farther than that.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other things that you and I had sort of, because again, we tend to set parameters. So when I first was talking about this with you, I said, look, I don't want this to just be a countdown where it's 10 Disney cartoons because anyone can do that. And that's been done. You want to know the top 10 Disney cartoons from your childhood? Just type that into the internet. They're going to give you a long list. So I said, let's make sure that our lists aren't just 5 Disney movies, and let's try and limit the number of animated movies. Because again, I think cartoons are easy. Most parents are happy to put a cartoon movie in front of their, like onto the screen for their kids. Because most parents assume most cartoons are kid friendly, and especially things like Disney, they generally are. I was trying to dive a little deeper and look for movies that were actual movies with real life people. Now, I'll be honest, I have one animated on mine. I think we'd said, let's limit it to one animated. So I have one animated on mine, but the other 4 are all real movies, some better than others. I'm laughing because some of them are really bad.
Sounds like some of them are pretty crappy. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. But, so anyway, that was sort of how I got, motivated to get this list together. And honestly, it was a little tough to cut it down to 5, but I got there in the end.
Nice.
And believe me, you're going to be like, wow, you should have cut it down to 2. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
I'm really interested to get to our top 5 list. But before we get to our list, I do want to talk a little bit about just family-friendly movies in general. And especially, we often talk about, nostalgia, old movies, and then we talk about how they relate to today and how today's things are. What does family-friendly even mean anymore? Because back in the day, it was all about like, what was it rated? Like, what was the tone of the film? Was there any bad language in it? Were there any mature themes? Like, but nowadays it almost feels like a family-friendly movie is just something parents are willing to sit through. Like it doesn't seem like. The other thing too is back then it felt like family films were like event movies. Like you'd all go to the theater together to see it. And I think streaming has probably changed that. So I don't think that family-friendly movie exists the same way as it used to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it totally does. Yeah. And I mean, for me, I remember when I was, again, we're talking really young. When I'm thinking between 5 and 10 years old, I always remember on the weekends, they had, again, family-friendly movies that they could show on TV, that they didn't have to edit them. They just threw commercials into them. But like, again, Disney is obviously the number one as far as like who's putting out these kinds of movies, because that was their bread and butter. And so you had things like The Wonderful World of Disney every Sunday. And so every Sunday you got a Disney movie. And in most cases, it was a full 2-hour movie. And believe me, Disney's got a deep bench of this kind of thing. But you would have movies like that shown on the weekends as well. So I can remember being really like as a young kid, especially when the weather wasn't great and you weren't going to be outside, watching television in the afternoon, and often one or both of my parents would be there, and it would be like, hey, we're going to sit down and watch this movie. But I had alluded to it earlier. I remember in my school, they used to do, like my primary school and my middle school, they would do like movie day. And it was probably like when a teacher was ill, or it was basically like a snow day, but everybody came in anyway, because they didn't do that back when I was younger. And they would show these movies. And it's much like when we worked at the video store. You always had to worry about like, well, is this movie going to be appropriate for all audiences? So it was almost always these sort of family-friendly movies. Many cases they were Disney, not always. And so that, again, I can remember seeing a lot of these movies that way at school with other people. And yeah, it's definitely a different way to consume this kind of material. It's a different time, obviously. And it was, again, we're showing it once. If you don't see it, if you were sick that day, like, sorry, this isn't the kind of thing you can just be, well, I'll watch it on YouTube tomorrow. Like, no, that's it. Hey, were you there for movie day yesterday when we saw blah, blah, blah? It's like, nope. Well, then you're never going to know what we're talking about, because the chances you're ever going to find this again, not happening. So,
and I will freely admit that I am, a subject of nostalgia bias. No question about it. But I wonder sometimes, like, some of these older family movies, like, they just, I don't know, are they better, or are they just better in our minds because we watched them at the perfect age? Like, there's always that nostalgia bias I always got to kind of think about, especially when it comes, because I do have kids, and I've shown my kids all these movies, and that's what's going to come into play in my top 5 list, is whether or not I was able to show them to my kids and my kids like them too. I think that was a big sort of, test for my list. But I definitely am aware of nostalgia bias for myself. I don't know. I always struggle with, like, were movies better back then, or were movies just better just because of nostalgia, or, we were just a great age to watch them at? Something I always struggle with. I'm not really sure.
Well, I think that, and especially on my list, there's a lot of these movies that are, that actually have deep themes to them, and they're presented in such a way that if kids understand that, great. If kids don't get it, there's still enough other things going on that kids can enjoy the movie for its literal face value. And while I was doing some of the research this week on some of these movies, like, even for a few of them, I was sort of like, oh my God, you're right. That is sort of what was going on here. Like, all these years later, it never occurred to me. Again, I haven't seen some of these movies since I was a little kid. But when I was reading the synopsis and reading, it's like, well, this was a metaphor for blah, 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 or this was really about a social commentary on da-da-da-da-da, that, or this was the theme of this and that we wanted to make sure kids understood. And it's like, wow, you're absolutely right. That is totally in there. And it never occurred to me as a young kid. And I think that was part of the reason that these things, we call them family friendly. That's why they could be watched as a family, because your parents probably picked up on all of those things and were like, this movie's more than about X, Y, Z. It's actually about this. And if my kid gets that, I'm happy that they've watched this movie. And again, I have some very specific examples with my movies when we get into it.
So then is a movie truly family friendly if parents are just bored out of their minds?
Not a chance. No, and I think that's a big fail with today's movies.
Right? Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it's funny because you were mentioning too about live action family films. I feel like they were more popular back in like Gen X than they are now. It seems to me that animated movies have sort of, I want to say they've outclassed live action family films, but they've definitely outdone live action family films in the last 20 years. They've overtaken them. It seems like family friendly movies are now animated films. Whereas when we were young, a lot of family friendly movies were live action.
I can tell you what my thoughts on that is, movies today, to make money, need to be international. And if it's an animated movie, it's a heck of a lot easier for the animated characters to be able to speak in multiple languages and recut that movie, whether it's in English or French or Spanish or Chinese or Korean or whatever. If it's an animated mouth, you can make that change with a click of a button.
Right.
Whereas if it's a movie featuring, English-speaking Americans, it's harder to sell that movie to a foreign audience that doesn't speak English as their primary language and is not seeing people on screen that look like them. And I think that's a big part of why movies today, especially kids' movies, you tend to see more of them being animated for that. I think it's simply a dollars and cents decision. This is the way we can sell it to a broader audience.
One thing we've talked about before too is about like movies from the past. Would they get made today? And I think a lot of sort of classic family movies probably wouldn't get made today.
No, not a chance.
It just wouldn't, because a lot of stuff in those movies were a lot darker and scarier in some of those, sort of,
or just straight up inappropriate. Right. Wouldn't hold up today for a number of reasons.
Also, like you were talking before about Disney, and like we should only have one Disney thing, and like you think I was mentioning about nostalgia. I think there's a Disney nostalgia as well that takes place.
Oh, for sure.
And that Disney nostalgia sometimes overcompensates for some Disney movies that were not great. They were just like okay. But I think that the Disney nostalgia sort of carries them, you know? That's
definitely for some, yeah.
What about PG? PG was always like a rating too, but it seems like it's become a little bit more or like less meaningful nowadays.
Yeah, honestly, with most of my movies, most of them are G-rated. 4 out of the 5 of my movies are G-rated. Now, that's not to say that they would be G-rated if they came out today.
Right.
Because I
Might
think
be different.
The criteria for what brought a G movie to a PG movie, maybe the line has moved a little bit, especially now that there's a PG-13. I think a lot of movies that might have used to been G are now considered PG, and a lot of stuff that was PG is now PG-13. Like everything sort of, the line has moved a little bit.
True.
But yeah, I think that's certainly a part of it.
Okay, so on that note, what do you say we dive into our list? I'm going to let you start things off. We'll start with your number 5 movie, and we'll work our way up to number 1. We'll go back and forth. So what is your number 5
All right.
family-friendly movie from our generation or from when we were kids?
I'm going all the way. I'm already laughing because I know you're going to be like, what the hell?
Wait.
Okay. It's from 1976.
Okay.
It's a G-rated movie. It's called Gus.
Oh, God.
Have you ever
Okay. So it's funny when you were mentioning before about when you used to get together at school and you'd all like gather together and like they'd put you all in the library and they'd put a movie on during a snow day.
Yep.
As soon as you said that, I was taken right back to like 1977, 78, being in school, and we all got together on a snow day in the library and we watched Gus. And I remember it was the donkey that kicks the field goals, right?
Yes, that's exactly the one.
I know this movie. Yes.
This movie has lived in my brain for years. And when we were talking about family-friendly movies, this was literally the very first one that popped in my mind. I have not seen it since the early 80s when I was in school. I have no idea how it holds up. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, it's from 1976. It stars Ed Asner and Don Knotts. It also has Tim Conway and Dick Van Patten.
Right.
Like it had some names. There was a few other people in here too. You're like, oh my God. And the idea is that Ed Asner is the coach of an NFL team in California, the California Adams, and they're in last place. They didn't win a single game last year. And he's got to bring their record up to, I think, at least win 7 games. And so he's trying everything he can think of. And as a publicity stunt, he reads an article that says in like Yugoslavia or somewhere in Eastern Europe, there's a donkey that can kick a mule that can kick a field goal 100 yards. He's been trained to do it for soccer. So he ends up getting the mule and his owner, like her handler, like a young teenage kid, to come to America to do it, and then they end up putting the donkey in the game so he can kick these field goals. And of course, it's hilarious and stupid, but you know, it's great. And of course, the team ends up winning, and like even at the end of the movie, they go all the way to the Super Bowl. Because that's what happens in these kinds of movies.
Of course.
Against all odds, they're in first place. They get to go to the Super Bowl. And of course, there's like a couple of like slapstick scenes where like the donkey destroys a grocery store. And there's like a whole plot from like the other teams that don't want them to win, where they try and steal the mule and switch it with one that can't kick the football. And it's all these things that little kids would find funny. Like there's a lot of slapstick and silliness that goes on, but it's also, like all of these movies, it's like the idea that the kid who's the handler of the mule was never good enough to be in the sport himself. That's why he taught the donkey to kick the football.
Right.
And of course, I'm going to spoil it for you. At the end, the donkey can't do the thing, so the kid himself has to actually do the play to win the Super Bowl. Everybody feels good at the end of the movie, but It was great. I love this movie. I have no idea if it holds up. I watched a few clips this afternoon, and I did some reading, and I'm like, it just tickled that nostalgia right away. I was like, I may have to go back and rewatch.
Is it available on the streamers?
It's on YouTube. You watch it for free.
Okay, perfect. There you go.
Yeah, the whole movie. And what was even funnier was somebody made a trailer, an unofficial trailer, but they used all the clips from the original movie from the 70s, but it has like all of today's high-tech special effects. So like as they show a scene and they cut away and they're like, there's a boy and his mule. And it's like you get the title cards come up and it's all like crisp 4K high definition, and then it cuts back to the thing. Yeah, no, it's this again, it's silly, it's goofy, and it just tickles my funny bone, and it scratches that nostalgia so well. From 1976, the movie's called Gus.
I think that's
and I remember the
great
command
one to
word
start
for the
with.
donkey to kick was oyage. And I was like, for some reason, that word just always sticks in my mind. And I'm like, oyage, Gus. And he, boom, kicks the thing right into the
What kind of a
upright.
word
So,
is that?
I don't know. It probably means something
It makes
totally
donkeys
racist in
kick
Eastern
field
European
goals.
language.
I
But
don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Anyway, Gus from 1976. That's my number 5.
That's a great way to get us started. I love it. Okay, my
Oh,
number
it gets
5.
better. It gets better.
Oh, good. I can't wait. My number 5. I'm gonna go 1 year further. I'm gonna go 1977 with The Rescuers. So in 1977, little 7-year-old me went to the movies with my uncle to see this movie. It was a Disney movie, and I loved it. So Bob Newhart and Eva Gabor they play Bernard and Bianca, who are 2 mice, and they're members of this Rescue Aid Society. It's like this international mouse organization. And what they do is they help abduction victims around the world by rescuing them. And this young girl named Penny is kidnapped by a treasure hunter named Medusa, who has these 2 crocodiles as pets. They're like dogs on leashes. And Medusa is trying to find the world's biggest diamond, the Devil's Eye. And Bernard and Bianca, the mice, decide to rescue Penny and then get the diamond and then get it to the Smithsonian. And Medusa was actually voiced by Geraldine Page. She went on to win a Best Actress Oscar in 1986 for The Trip to Bountiful. I got to tell you, 7-year-old me loved this movie. And so I showed it to my kids when they were younger, and they absolutely loved it too. I feel like it's timeless. It's an amazing movie to watch together as a family. And even as an adult, like I enjoyed it. And not just for the nostalgia of it all, it's actually a really good little movie. So, and the movie was so popular actually that it became the first Disney animated film to get a sequel. In 1990, they came out with The Rescuers Down Under. So it was the first Disney animated film ever to spawn a sequel. So it was pretty popular. So that's my number 5, The Rescuers from 1977. Number 4, Derek, what do you got?
Well, I got to admit, while I am familiar with The Rescuers, I've never seen it.
It's actually quite good. I think you would actually enjoy it. It's an enjoyable film. It really is.
Fair enough. All right. We're going back to the funny bone for mine. Okay.
Love
You
it.
thought Gus was an inspired pick.
Oh, I love
Have
it.
I got one for you?
Lay it on me.
All right. What do you get when you take a classic musical and you sort of rejig it a little bit and you give the music sort of a 1980s sound, but it's still pretty much the classic musical of Pirates of the Penzance? You get the Pirate movie from 1982
I
with
know
Chrissy
that one.
McNichol and Christopher Atkins.
Yes.
And let me tell you, while musicals are not my jam, this musical when I was 10 years old was my jam.
I
I
liked it
still
too.
have
Yes.
the cassette soundtrack of
Wow.
the music for this.
I have the
remember as a
DVD
little
of it.
kid. Yeah, just I remember watching it and loving it, and the music. I loved singing this, like you knew all the songs, and it's got some of the classic Pirates of Penzance
I
songs.
Want a
but some of
Happy
them,
Ending, I remember.
yeah.
Yep.
And and again, it's a little silly, a little goofy, a little action oriented, the whole Pirates thing. Again, when you're, let's see, this came out in 82. I would have been 8 years old. I probably saw it actually, I think I saw this in the theater. I'll be honest with you. So I would have been 8 or 9 years old. Like it just hit all the notes that I wanted as a little kid. I thought it was great. And I remember then it was available on video. I can remember asking my parents to rent it multiple times. I might have even recorded it off of TV once. And yeah, it's just even, again, in my mind, I can hear some of the songs. So again, this week I'm going through and I'm watching clips and they're showing the music. And I'm just like, oh, I totally remember this song. And I think we've talked about this before. Like music can be such a powerful trigger for memory.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things I find with me is I can hear a song that I haven't heard in 20 years. And if it's a song that I really like and then I hear it, I immediately, if I knew all the words back then, I know all the words right now. I'm like, I can sing along and it's like, how do I still know the words to this song? And it's the power of memory with the music. And like, let me tell you, this week, that's exactly what happened. As I'm listening to the soundtrack of this, I was like, oh my God, I know all the words to all these songs.
I'm older than the Beatles, but I'm younger than the Rolling Stones. Remember that?
Yes.
I love that movie too.
Yeah, it had like some good, interesting, sort of funny dance numbers as well. Again, it was a straight up Broadway musical thrown onto the screen with some sort of modern twists. But the fact that the song sort of had like that little 80s vibe to it, I think really hit me, because we've talked about how much I love 80s new wave music, even as a little kid. And I think that's what really stuck the landing for me. So yeah, I got to go with this one. The pirate movie, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I gotta think that it's worth the rewatch. So from 1982.
It's one of those movies too that just kind of disappeared. Like when we think back of nostalgic films from the 80s, that one does not make a lot of lists. But
no, not at all.
It really is a good little movie. It's really entertaining.
It really is.
And it's very family friendly and stuff. So that's a great pick. I love it. Okay. Yeah. My number 4, I'm going to go with Time Bandits from 1981. I went to see this movie in the theater. I was 11 years old and I loved it. Like I just loved it so much. I still do. It's directed by Terry Gilliam, and it is basically the first film in his sort of trilogy of imagination, because he followed it up with Brazil in 85. And then he wrapped up the trilogy with The Adventures of Baron Munchausen in 88. So in this movie, a young boy goes to bed and a group of little people come out of his closet, and they're robbers, and they have this map that shows them these special holes that allow them to travel through time and space. And so they go from like place to place to place, and they rob all these like historical people like Napoleon and Robin Hood. And the whole time they're being chased by this evil villain who is played amazingly by David Warner. He should have been nominated for an Oscar for that movie, I believe. And also the supreme being is like God, apparently, is also after them to try and get back the map. It's weird. It's quirky. It's like, I don't know. It's just an adventure for all ages. I showed it to my kids. They've watched it over and over again. It is timeless, totally holds up. And the thing that holds up too is the practical special effects. There are times watching this movie now, I'm like scratching my head trying to figure out how the hell did they do some of these shots? You know, it's like basically this young kid going on an adventure through time and space. What is not to like? So that was my number 4. So, all right,
good
on to
pick.
your number. You've watched Time Bandits. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, we did it on the podcast like maybe a year or two ago. Again, it wasn't really one of my sort of childhood movies. I saw it and didn't really love it, but when we watched it again for the podcast, I was like, okay, again, I'm a big fan of Terry Gilliam's work, so I can appreciate it, but it doesn't have that nostalgia factor for me just because I don't have that connection to my childhood like you do.
I love it. Okay, so your number 3 movie,
all right.
What do you got?
Yeah, this one we've all got connections to our childhood. I'm going with the first animated Charlotte's Web from 1973.
Oh, that's a good one.
If you need a good cry, you can always call this up and watch it. And if you don't cry at the end of this, you are a heartless bastard. Same with the book. If you read the book and you don't cry.
The book is heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, the movie so this is one of the ones they showed us at school. You got a whole gymnasium full of little kids bawling their eyes out watching this movie.
And it's a musical in places too.
I seem to recall that.
Yep.
Yeah,
they had some musical numbers in it. Yep.
And so I remember we watched it as like, you know, all whatever grade, like I was, you know, all the grades 2s, 3s, and 4s got together to watch this movie. And then we did it in class. Like we read the book as a unit, like as the class study thing, but they wanted us to see the movie first because I guess they figured it was better to do the movie than the book than the other way around. And so, yeah, I remember this was how I was introduced to this story. I would assume, I would really hope just about everybody listening to this podcast is at least familiar with the story of Charlotte's Web. You know, you've got the young pig that befriends the spider, and then the spider, you know, does the little messages and stuff in the webbing. And so everyone's like, oh my God,
saves the pig's life. Yep.
Saves the pig's life. Yeah. And no, it's
just about friendship. It's about friendship
and
how you can become friends with somebody who's not like you. You know, it's so great.
Yeah. And that goes back to what I was saying before about how some of these movies, you know, you watch this movie as a kid and on its face, it's a talking pig and a talking spider and they're having a great time together and they're having fun and singing songs and you don't necessarily get it all. It's, you know, it's just a cartoon. But, you know, as a grown up, you're watching it and you get that out of it. The idea that, you know, you can you can be friends with people who are different than you. You can accept people that are different than you. And it also, again, towards the end when, spoiler alert, that Charlotte dies, there's that, how do we move on from loss? And it's like, oh, well, there's, there are new friends to be had when, the little babies are still there. Yep. So yeah, this is just a great book. It's a great movie. It's been remade a bunch of times, both as an animated movie, as a live action movie with some computer generated animals and real people. I haven't seen any of those new ones. And why would you want to when the 1973 cartoon is right there? This one, a great family friendly movie. If you got kids and they haven't watched this, sit them down and watch this. You're all going to love it. It's so good for so many reasons. 1973 Charlotte's Web, my third pick.
Good pick. I remember reading that book to my son. He was probably 4. I was reading and I just started crying when I'm reading the book. We would go to bed every night and I'd read a chapter of a book. I went through that period, when kids are a certain age and then they outgrow it. And I remember reading that book and I was just like, I'm crying. And my son looks at me and he's like, he notices that I'm crying. And he's like, Dad, why are you crying? It's just a spider. And I'm thinking, this kid has no soul. He
gets that from his mother.
I guess it doesn't get it from me. I'm a big sap. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't realize when I was looking through the credits that Debbie Reynolds was the voice of the spider. I was like, oh my God.
Paul Lynde was the voice of Templeton the rat too. He was so memorable in that role with his voice. He was great. That was a good pick. I like that one. Okay. My number 3, I'm going to go with Home Alone. We watch it every year at Christmas. My kids love it. And what kid wouldn't? It's like the dream for any kid just to be at home alone, all by yourself. As he has to set up all these booby traps to fight off the burglars and stuff. He has to go grocery shopping. And then he gets to know his scary neighbor. And the movie's got such a great message because, at one point, you think about it and think, well, this is a terrible family movie. It's about a family that leaves their kid at home. This is terrible. But at the end, you realize that I love it how the old man is also home alone until he reunites with his estranged son. And so for me, it's kind of an amazing family movie. There's a lot going on in it. It's a lot of fun to watch, and we watch it every year at Christmas. SNL this past year did a deleted scene of what happens at the end of the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Derek.
Oh, I saw it.
And if you have not seen it, then go, I guess it's on YouTube or something. You look at, my good God. It's something else.
It's pretty funny.
It's like all hell breaks loose.
I think it was the Ariana Grande episode. I think Ariana Grande plays right. Kevin. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so good. So Home Alone is number 3 for me. What's your number 2?
All right. So I needed to put a straight up Walt Disney cartoon on this movie. Sure. And so I went with my all-time favorite. Again, if you thought Charlotte Web would make you cry, wait till you get to 1981's The Fox and the Hound.
Oh, that's a good one. Nice.
This is one of my all-time faves. So this has Mickey Rooney and Kurt Russell as the Fox and the Hound once they grow up. But I just love this cartoon. It's so good. The idea of, the baby fox and the baby hound becoming friends. And then as they get older and they start to realize, like, we are supposed to be enemies. And again, as a kid, you like the songs, you like the animation. It's fun. The little dog, when he's little and he tries to bark, he's he makes the funny noises and it's just hilarious. And it's like, he's got the big ears and it's like the animation is great. Like so many Disney cartoons from back then. And it's funny and it's interesting and it keeps little kids occupied. But just the idea of, again, just like we were talking about before, you can be friends with someone that's different than you. And I was doing some of the reading on this movie this week, and it really, I read an article that was really going into it about how this is all about the difference between nature versus nurture and how much of who you are is based on what your genetics are versus what your environment teaches you. And if you are loved and you are given the positive vibes as a kid versus if you are just told you will always be whatever you're going to be, whether it's you're going to be nothing or you're going to be something or you're going to be aggressive or you're going to be friendly. And the more I start reading these articles, I'm like, oh my God, that's absolutely, totally 100% in there. And I never really picked up on that as a little kid. But as I started watching some of the clips and reading more of the stuff, I'm like, that's probably why I like this movie so much. Like there is just so much going on that maybe as a little kid, I didn't get a lot of it. but it was still, it always just was one of those Disney movies that I liked. And I'm not a huge fan of Disney and even as a little kid, I wasn't a huge fan of Disney cartoons. I always felt there was too much music, too much singing unnecessarily. And this one has a handful of songs, but they're great. And even to this day, I can remember those songs. I wouldn't call this one a musical. Like some of the Disney cartoons are straight up musicals.
Right.
This one, while it has a couple of songs, I would not classify this one in that musical camp. It's more like the drama kind of cartoon, and it's great, and just the voice work is great, there's a lot to like about this movie, and this is another one that by the end, if you're not like tearing up, you are soulless. Like this one is all like, oh my, they were friends and now they can't be, and oh, he's gonna get shot by the hunter, and oh, he's got to fight the bear, and it's like, just the things that happen to these characters, and it's the things they do for each other, and it's just like, oh my God, it's so emotional. It's such a roller coaster. It's so good. It's G-rated, absolutely family friendly.
Yep.
All ages can enjoy this movie, whether they can find those deeper meanings in it, given their age or not. It's fantastic. So my number 2 pick had to be The Fox and the Hound.
Oh, that's a great pick. Okay, for my number 2, I'm going to go with The Goonies. So it's kids looking for treasure. So what's not to like? Kids obviously relate to it. I showed it to my kids. They loved it. There's lots for the parents to like in there too. Like some of the jokes. There's just so much going on. You got Sloth and Chunk and the Fratellis and Data. And it's all about hidden treasure and this adventure and booby traps. And there's quite a bit of comedy in it too. And even the end, when they get reunited with the parents and stuff, I just feel it's a movie that you can sit down and watch as a family, and it's one of those ones that's rewatchable. You can watch it over and over and over again, kind of like Home Alone. So I really like The Goonies, and again, my kids have liked it. We watch it together as a family. Anytime that I've mentioned, let's watch The Goonies, I've never gotten any resistance. Okay, we'll watch it again. So I think The Goonies is a great one. I enjoyed it when I saw it as a kid, and I enjoy it as an adult, and my kids like it, and maybe one day they'll show it to their kids. Who knows? But it's definitely my number 2. So I'm going with The Goonies, 1985.
This is that's a good pick. But this is another one that, while I did see it as a kid it was 85, right, when it came out?
Yes.
I definitely saw it in 85, and I remember thinking, as a kid, you're like, this is a good movie, but it never really resonated with me like it does for other people. And I've seen it a bunch of times since then. Honestly, in my mind, one of the things I liked the most about it was the Cyndi Lauper song. I like that, to me, is something I enjoyed from the movie. The rest of it was just sort of like, it was okay. It was fine. I don't know. It never really hit for me in that way. And I don't really know why. Like I said, I've watched it again. It's not like I'm like, I don't like it. It is what it is. So, but to your point, almost everybody else in our age group, when you mention the Goonies, their eyes light up, they smile, they're like, oh, I love that movie. My wife has a Goonies t-shirt. Like, awesome. Yeah, it really hits with a lot of people. Maybe I was just a little too young, because I would have been 9 or 10 when that came out. Whereas I know, like, you and my wife and a few other people just a couple of years older than me. It's like, I think maybe that might have been it too. But anyway, it's a good pick. Solid pick anyway.
Okay, we're on to your number 1.
My number 1. I'm going with 1979. Yes, this is my third movie from the 70s, or my second movie from the 70s. 1979's The Black Stallion.
Oh, wow.
You ever seen this movie, Chris?
Yes. I did see it on the movie network when I was a kid. And it's quite good. I think the first half of the film is better than the second half of the film, if I remember correctly.
Agreed.
But
Absolutely.
no, it's a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it stars the young boy is Kelly Reno. It also stars Mickey Rooney and Terry Garr in her first movie appearance as the mom.
That wasn't her first movie in 1979.
Well, I read something. It said this was her first movie appearance. Maybe her first lead. I don't know.
No.
Okay.
She was in Young Frankenstein in 1974. I mean,
Well, then don't trust what you read on the internet. It turns out that not all the things on the internet are correct.
She was in Close Encounters in 77. No, she did movies before this.
All right. I'm wrong. Edit that out so I don't sound stupid.
All right. No worries.
Too late. All right. Anyway, The Black Stallion. Again, I remember seeing this in the theater. So I would have been like 5 or 6 years old. Again, back when we were younger, movies would often get re-released like a year later or a couple years later for short
that was a
theater
thing, for
runs.
sure.
that was a thing, like, especially for big movies, Star Wars, Raiders, E.T., like huge movies like that were always being re-released. But I want to say this was probably re-released like maybe the next year. And because I might have been a little young when this first came out. But anyway, I remember watching it, really liking it. Because I remember a few years later, they actually made a sequel, which I remember my dad actually brought me to see as well, which, while was good, was nowhere near as good as this. And apparently this is based on a very popular book, which is why they turned it into a movie. But again, this is one of those ones that the idea is the young boy, he's on an ocean-going trip with his father. There's an accident on the boat sinks, and he and this horse, this black stallion that were on the boat, end up on a deserted island, and everyone else on the boat dies, including the kid's father. And so you've got like 45 minutes, the first half of the movie, where the kid is trying to survive alone with no one else but this horse. And obviously becomes friends with the horse, bonds with the horse, and then eventually gets rescued. And then the second half of the movie, he's back home, and that's when he meets Mickey Rooney's character. And Mickey Rooney, used to train horse jockeys, and so he teaches the little boy how to ride the horse, and they end up entering the race. And yeah, it's a whole second half of the movie. But one of the things I'm reading while I was going through the stuff this week is it talks about like the black stallion, the horse, as a metaphor for death, and how the boy, how he tames death, and how death, and I was like reading all this stuff, and I'm like, no, like, sometimes people can read anything. Yeah. The shark in Jaws is nothing more than a male penis penetrating the water. It's like, give me a break.
It's capitalism taking over and eating.
So I'm reading this review, and I'm like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then I'm reading a few other things, and like it keeps coming up that apparently that's the sort of thing, is the horse is a metaphor for death, and And I was like, I never got any of that out of it when I watched the movie as a kid. But the more I read, the more I'm like, wow, that's definitely in there. It's totally in there. I'm watching clips going, that's true. So, and again, maybe that's why some of these movies hit with me as a kid, is while I wasn't consciously aware that there were these bigger themes and bigger meanings, like it's almost like my subconscious realized, like, there's a lesson here. Remember this. And again, you have the whole theme of like the man versus nature, between the boy just being isolated on the island with no other people, and him trying to become friends with the horse. And again, the movie is shot, it's beautifully shot on this deserted island, the boy, and like nothing but this black horse. Like, he doesn't have a harness or a saddle or anything. And it's just like, here you go, the shots of the horse running on the, like, it's beautiful to look at. The cinematography is amazing. I didn't realize till just today, Francis Ford Coppola was the producer of this. I'm like, wow, this movie really had some prestige. And Mickey Rooney was nominated for an Oscar for this movie. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I had no idea. But anyway, I went back, I watched some of the stuff on this week, and it's like, I remembered, as I'm watching some of this stuff, I'm like, I remembered why I liked it. And again, I think this is one of those ones where the story, it's like so many of these movies, these sort of family-friendly movies, they tend to focus on younger characters, whether they be like younger kids or teenagers. So as a kid, you see yourself on screen. You're like, oh, this is a movie about a 9-year-old. I'm 9. I can relate to this. And so I think probably for me, when I was watching this movie, it was probably one of the first like real movies that I saw in the theater where the main character is a child who was probably around the age that I was at the time. So I think that's probably why it hit with me so much. And then one of the things that was very popular in these movies, as we've already talked about a little bit, is many of these movies had animals in them, as my first pick, Gus, had in it. And so you had a lot of these movies where like animals were important. You had a lot of movies where the animals talked, like you had, or they were prominently featured as main characters. You had like the Benji movies, and you had things like that. There was one like Incredible Journey or something where it was like a dog befriends a whatever. But again, this is one of these ones where there's nothing special supernatural about it. The horse doesn't talk or anything weird like that. This movie is a straight up drama. But again, it's geared for family friendly. While these deeper themes and meanings are in there, as a kid, you don't need to be aware of all that. It's just straight up a good movie. And again, it's a real, actual Hollywood movie. It is one of these cheap, low budget, crappy special effects. Like, clearly when they made this movie, they're like, we are making a film. Like, this isn't just slap it together to throw it on the Disney Channel. Like, this was released in the theater and got real prestige, real critical praise. So that's why it's always stood out to me as a favorite of mine. And I haven't seen it in a while. And after doing some of the homework this week, I'm like, I really think I'm going to need to go back and rewatch it. But it always held a special place for me. So that's why it's the number one on my list. 1979, The Black Stallion.
The Black Stallion. It's no Gus, but it's a great pick for your number one. Before I get to my number one, I did want to mention, I was thinking about going with The Wizard of Oz from 1939. But the reason I didn't is because it didn't seem to fit the parameters of this topic where we were talking about from our childhood. Like, I was looking at more like movies that came out when I was a kid, whereas, you know, The Wizard of Oz obviously came out in 1939, but I watched it as a kid and I've had my kids watch it and they all love it. And it is absolutely one of the most timeless films that's ever been made. But so I decided to leave it off my list, but I went with my number one.
Wait, Chris, can I give you an honorable mention for
Of course. Yeah.
So,
what do you got?
So I'm going to say this is a crappy movie, which is why it didn't make my list, but it was in the running. This was sort of my number 6 pick. It's a movie from 1973 called The World's Greatest Athlete and stars John Amos and Jen Michael Vincent. Are you familiar with this at all?
No, I'm not. Believe it or not.
So John Amos is a high school track coach, or I guess college probably. And he's like, again, down on his luck. And he goes to Africa of all places where he finds, get this, a white man who is the world's greatest athlete. He can run faster than a cheetah and he can jump higher than the kangaroo. Like he can do all this stuff. And he basically brings him back to America to win every track and field event. The special effects are so bad. And the whitewashing of this movie is ridiculously outdated. Like it is so cringy. Yeah. But it was one of the ones that I had to go back and do some homework on. And I was like, I don't think this was going to make the list, but it was in the running for a while. But again, it's another one. It's one of these Disney ones that I remember seeing at school where it's like, and the lesson is like, you know, the displaced athlete who comes to America and realizes he can go home and still be great at home and all the rest of that. Like, so there's the lesson, you know, every Disney movie is like, what's the message here? But yeah. So that one's my honorable mention. My not so lowercase h honorable.
Like it. Okay, so my number one, I'm going with The Princess Bride from 1987.
Great pick.
I mean,
great pick.
It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old or if you're young at heart. There is something in this movie for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or there's just something in this movie that everyone will come away with. And it's such a great movie to watch as a family. And my one son, I remember when we watched it, he liked it so much. We actually got the book and we read it together. Like I mentioned, sometimes at night I would lay in bed with them and read a chapter. We would read one chapter every night. The book is amazing. The book, it's almost exactly like the movie. The movie's very faithful to the book. It's almost like reading the script of the movie, actually. And it's just fantastic. I could watch this movie anytime. And the thing is, my kids are the same way. Again, anytime I mention, let's watch Princess Bride. Oh, sure. Put it on. And it's funny because overall, you might think it's kind of like a girly movie, you know, or like something like that. But
is this a kissing book?
Exactly. Just like Fred Savage says in the movie. But it's not. There's so much going on. It's swashbuckling but there's romance in it too. But at the end of the day, it's all about true love. And it's just a great, great movie to watch as a family. And I just love it. So no question, that was my number one. Now, before we go on to our trivia.
Chris, I just want to say for Princess Bride, I literally watched this yesterday. They've been doing all the Rob Reiner movies.
Wow.
You know, yep. It was on yesterday. We watched it yesterday. I'd probably seen The Princess Bride 50 times. If the over and under was 50, I would take the over all day long.
Wow.
I love this movie. That's a great pick.
That's awesome. I have not watched it that recent, but I mean, I've seen it, in the last little while. And it's just so good. It's just so good. Okay. So before we go on to our trivia, I wanted to mention this segment that we've been talking about lately, and I'm going to put it up now. Did it age like wine or milk? All right, Derek, we've talked about all these movies that are family-friendly movies that we loved from our childhood. But I want each of us to talk about one that aged poorly. Would you like to go first or would you like to go second?
No, I'll go first.
Okay. What do you got?
So, I mean, so many movies from that era age badly simply because of the special effects. And I already talked about the world's greatest athlete, which aged badly for a number of reasons. But I'm gonna take a little zag on this one, and this might almost be a little bit of a hot take.
Okay.
So the movie I want to talk about is Big, with Tom Hanks.
Okay, yeah.
Which I would call a family-friendly movie.
I would too. Yeah.
Sort of right on the cusp. You know, the little kid who wants to be big. Like, what little kid doesn't want that?
Sure.
The reason I think this aged poorly is there's a lot of stuff in this movie that you got to question when you look at it today. So he's a 12-year-old that gets the body of a grown-up and then ends up having sex with a coworker, we assume.
Yep.
And nobody has any problems with that. Like, if this was a gender reversal, people would have freaked out.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, the 12-year-old boy disappears. So as far as the parents and the family know, he's been kidnapped. And then adult Josh is like writing letters to his mom and like calling, pretending to be the kidnappers. Like, how does this affect your family? Like, I read a thing where the guy was like, you know, the movie I want to see? I want to see the movie where the dad quits his job and basically goes on the hunt for this kidnapper, finds Josh as an adult and just murders him because he thinks he's killed his son. Like, that's a movie I believe could happen under these circumstances.
It could, yeah.
And when 12-year-old Josh comes back, like, what does he tell the family? Like, what kind of, obviously he's got to lie to them. Oh, I was a grown-up in Magic Wish. Like, they're not going to believe that. He's going to be in therapy forever. And so they're going to realize he's withholding information. How does that affect this kid moving forward? Like, he's going to have this most crazy home life. His parents have gone through this trauma. Like, his family's never gonna be, his parents are getting divorced. Like, who are we kidding? The parents are getting divorced. There's no chance they're staying together. This family is splitting apart. I hope Josh had a great time with that coworker. You know, the 12-year-old got to nail the hot chick. Not appropriate, but, you know, back in the 80s, that was acceptable. But yeah, no. This one, to me, on its face, great movie. On its face, great performance from Tom Hanks, great scene with the giant piano, the lesson that you never get your childhood back, so don't waste it. Like, so much to like. But some things leave some questions to be desired, which maybe means this movie didn't age quite as well as we thought. Anyway, that's my hot take.
I like it. It's a good one. I mentioned before I didn't want to go with the Wizard of Oz because it was too old. But for my aged like milk movie, I'm going to go way back to 1941. It's an animated film from Disney, only because it is something I watched as a child and saw it differently. And now that I kind of reminisce and go back to it and revisit it, not so good. And that's Dumbo.
Oh.
Remember the elephant with the big ears that can fly?
Oh, yeah.
But he drinks alcohol and hallucinates. He gets bullied and abused to no end. It's actually quite violent at times. But all of that stuff pales in comparison to the Crows.
The Crows. I'm like, you've got to be going to the Crows.
Man.
Yeah.
The lead one was actually originally named Jim Crow, and then they ended up changing it. They're just basically walking, talking stereotypes. They do a song called The Song of the Roustabouts, and they've got lyrics in the song like, when other folks have gone to bed, we slave until we're almost dead. And while they do this song, there's visuals of all these faceless black men like working in the rain at night. It's not good. This movie does not hold up. It is aged like milk, that's for sure. So that's what mine is. So
can I change my answer? I want to go with Dumbo.
Yeah, Dumbo was not good. It's
compared to that, Big, awesome. We're gonna go watch
Big is like,
yes,
it aged great. All right. So on that note, what do you say that we have some
fun with Caveman?
All right, Derek, I'm going to keep things nice and simple. We're just going to do some straight up trivia. Okay? Trivia on family-friendly movies. Start with some easy ones. We'll work our way up. So we're going to start with E.T., the Extraterrestrial, 1982. In that movie, what candy does Elliot use to lure E.T. into the house?
That would be Reese's Pieces.
The script actually called for M&M's.
M&M's, yeah.
But the company felt that the alien was too scary looking. They were worried it would damage the brand. So then Hershey
Joke's on them.
Yeah, Hershey steps in. They had just come out with Reese's Pieces. So they actually saw a sales increase of 300% for their candy for doing this movie. So good choice. Okay. What magical board game unleashes jungle chaos in Jumanji? What's the name of the board game they played?
The game was called Jumanji, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Very good. All right. Who provided the voice of the genie in Aladdin in 1992, Derek?
Oh, that was Jumanji. That was Robin Williams.
This is a tough one. In The Never-Ending Story from 1984, what is the name of the horse that sinks in the swamp?
I don't know. I saw the movie once. I didn't like it. No idea.
The horse's name was Artax. Artax.
Sure.
Okay. What 1989 family comedy stars John Candy as a reluctant babysitter in Chicago?
Oh, that's Uncle Buck.
Of course it is. Okay. In Back to the Future from 1985, how fast does the DeLorean have to get up to actually activate time travel?
Yeah, it's an easy one. 88 miles per hour.
Oh, I know you didn't like this movie, so this one's going to be a little bit more difficult for you. 1988. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? What substance in that movie is deadly to cartoon characters?
I don't know. Water.
No, it was dip. Dip. They put them in the dip.
Sure.
And they disintegrate. Okay, in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids from 1989, where do the shrunken children spend the majority of the movie?
Isn't it in the backyard?
It is, yes. In 1979's The Muppet Movie, what instrument does Kermit play at the opening credits while he's singing Rainbow Connection?
It's definitely a stringed instrument. I'm going to go with banjo.
Very good. Okay, in Toy Story, the original from 95, what phrase does Buzz Lightyear famously say before he attempts to fly?
Woody, I f***ed your mom. No. He says, he says, to infinity and beyond.
And in all fairness, I believe it was Woody that the bomb. Well, with the name and all. Okay. And the last one, thankfully, in Home Alone, which I already mentioned. Where is the McAllister family traveling to when they leave Kevin behind? What was their destination? Do you remember?
No. Paris. No, it was somewhere.
No,
yeah,
what would you say? Say that again.
Paris, France.
You are correct. It was Paris. There you go.
I don't know what made me think of that, because I've only seen the movie once and I didn't care for it.
What? You've seen the movie once and haven't watched it? Oh, my goodness. Well, anyway, so I redirected you back to because you were like, Paris. No, that's it. Just stay with it.
Well, because I thought for some reason the mom took I'm mixing it up with planes, trains, and automobiles, and I was like, no, yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Okay, so next time we come back, it's over to me to pick a movie. A few weeks ago, Derek, we did 1984, the year in music. And you and I were talking before we went into the studio to record that show. We were like, hey, it'd be a good idea. Let's do 1984, the year in music, and we'll follow that up with a couple of movies from 1984. So, of course, right at the end of the show, I went ahead and suggested that we watch and review Platoon from 1986 because I'm just an idiot. So I want to do a do-over if I could. I want us to now go back to 1984 and watch the comedy Top Secret with Val Kilmer.
Nice.
You up for it?
Yeah. It was on Turner Classic Movie a few weeks ago, and I watched maybe the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then I might have been a night we were doing the podcast. I'm like, I got to go. I got to watch podcast. Right. I got to do the podcast. But
all right. So now we get a chance to watch.
I haven't seen its entirety in a long time. So
me either. So we'll watch Top Secret. We'll come back and we'll review it next time. And until then, I'm Chris McBrien. On behalf of myself and Derek Myers, we want to say thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World. You can contact Chris and Derek at popgoesyourworld.com. Please take a minute and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.